Hey everyone, Stephan Kesting from GrappleHouse.com, Rob Biernacki from Island Top Team, and this is Volume 2 in our weak side control and attack instructional.
Exactly. So we went over in the last video the idea of the crossbody rotational control, and just gave a quick example.
Where you're controlling this leg or this hip and this shoulder, and that allows you to stay with me.
Exactly. So there are a few different ways we can achieve this, and the example that we gave was, it was a weak side attack in that we were going to the weak side, but we weren't shifting our control in any way. We already had the motorcycle grip, and we already had the twister hook, and I was just using that to belly you down. Now, normally when you talk about weak side attacks, what we're talking about is me bringing my body here and doing either a body triangle or pitting the hip in this fashion. So we want to go over a couple things about how I'm going to control this top shoulder. Right? So the motorcycle grip was the first thing we discussed, and this can be a single grip, or it can be a double grip. We're going to go over the double grip when, in a little more detail when we go over how to gain the choke, but for now let's just worry about the single grip. So let's just sit back up. If you watch EBI at all, you're going to know that in the overtime, whenever we start here, an almost immediate thing that has to occur if I want to maintain the back is this transition, either to the full body triangle or just to keeping the foot here. It's much more difficult when you're in that scenario to maintain the control against people who are really good at escaping the back if you're just using individual hooks. So as far as what you're doing to control the hip in this case, when we start to go to the weak side, my right foot is stepping on the hip. That's limiting his ability to bridge. Normally when you escape to the weak side, you're lifting your hips and scraping your partner off you, using the floor to scrape them off of your back. So as soon as I recognize either that he's going that way, or if I'm just choosing the weak side, if I choose to develop a weak side back attack scheme, I may end up favoring it, particularly if I'm a longer, kind of lanky person. I'm going to step on the hip to keep him down, and I'm going to transfer my foot across the hip, and I want to be hooking my left foot. So now I've created the hip control that I need. So what we need to focus on now are the grips here. Motorcycle grip, double motorcycle grip, shoulder cap, full Kimura grip, half Nelson, and claw ride. Those are the grips that we're going to be using to affect our top left shoulder or right shoulder if you're going on the other side.
So you've got this hip controlled, somehow you need to control
exactly.
the
I'm controlling
cross shoulder.
Right, bottom right hip, and my cross body control, I need to control this shoulder. If I'm not controlling the shoulder, the fact that I control your hip is not going to be enough to keep you exactly. So, here. And if we already have this, we keep it. We can go to the shoulder here like this, and it's important when I'm shoulder capping that I'm not just gripping your shoulder. Because if I grip your shoulder and I don't control this lever, you're still going to be able to drive across. Yeah, exactly. So when I shoulder cap, I'm flaring. I'm using my left hand as an anchor point on top of your shoulder. Here you can grip the collar if you want to in the gi. And I'll isolate this arm, preventing it from making contact with the ground. So now if you want to try to move to that side,
much harder.
It's really difficult. Now, usually when I teach this, I advocate the half Nelson even more so than the shoulder cap. Sometimes you can't get to this. If somebody's really driving their head in, you can't get the half Nelson to work, so the shoulder cap is an option. Like we can pretty much always have this. We can get to this. We can't always get to the half Nelson, so I don't say, it's a prerequisite, but definitely if we start here and you feel this is an option, go to the half Nelson, because now I'm breaking your posture in addition to breaking your structure. So we're creating that 3-0 alignment, which is ideal for attacking submissions. Finally, once we've done this, we can easily transition to the Kimora Control, which involves gripping the wrist, gripping my wrist, creating a frame between my shoulder and your neck with my elbow so that you can't close the distance and turn in, and creating this internal rotation of the shoulder, which, as we discussed in any instruction that I've ever done on the arm control, lever control. Anyway, if I can rotate your shoulder internally, I'm weakening you structurally to a much greater degree than if I'm just holding a cosmetic Kimura control. I need to keep your elbow off the ground. I need to push your hand towards the ground or your hip and internally rotate your shoulder.
People can probably see that my arm is in a Kimura position. I mean, it doesn't hurt. It's beginning to get a bit uncomfortable.
Right.
But what they might not feel is the frame that's against my neck. This is actually very uncomfortable, and it's the idea of getting my head all the way to the ground to scrape you off my back, forget about it in this configuration.
Exactly.
There's no chance.
Yeah, and a final configuration you can use is what's called a claw ride. Again, I have to keep this elbow off the mat. This immediately sets up the reverse Ezekiel if you're, if you're a gi guy. And if you wanted to transition back to the strong side, you're now completely set up for your arm triangles, any attack of that ilk. Right? So this is the one I use the least. This is the one I like to use the most, but is not always accessible. This is the one we can always get. This is the one we can always get. And if we get this, we can always get the Kimora Control. So adjust them according to your personal preference, what you use, and to what is available. You don't want to try to put a square peg into a round hole, I've been told. So if you're trying to force the half Nelson and it's not working, the Kimora Control may become available, or you may have to go back to the double motorcycle grip. All right, so I want to go over one example of this crossbody style of back attack, just so you can see how dynamic and powerful it is and how you can gain the back from positions you may not have thought possible. So a really good example of this is the top half guard. So I find myself in a situation where my partner wins the underhook and builds up to their elbow. Right? Normally I would have to whizzer, pose, like I basically have to out wrestle him at this point. So what I'm going to do instead is if I can capture his wrist, that's great. If not, I can still pull it off. I recommend trying to get this control anyway. I'm posting my right foot. I'm going to lean forward past his head to create the space to come in and get this motorcycle grip or double motorcycle grip. So I'm going to have this double motorcycle grip. I'm going to have my right foot posted. I'm going to withdraw my hand so you can see. I'm going to elevate my knee, pulling it out of the half guard so that I can pursue my roll. As I roll, my hip is going to trap his arm. Right? I don't want that arm there. So I'm going to start to walk off it and come into a seatbelt style configuration where I'm keeping this double motorcycle grip and my shoulder is going in behind his head. I'm now going to gain the twister hook. Right? You'll notice that I'm rolling all the way up onto my shoulder. I'm not trying to stay on my back. I don't care about chest to back connection so much anymore. Normally, when I'm controlling the back with a seatbelt, I want this chest to back connection as a critical prerequisite because it's direct rotational control. In the case of the crossbody, I have lever-based rotational control. So now if Stephan wants to turn into me, he can't because of this lever control here. If he wants to turn away from me, he can, which is why I need this arm blocking him. But if he brings his back to the mat, I don't really care as long as I can keep my shoulder over his neck by inserting my twister hook. And again, you'll notice I'm in a perpendicular alignment with his shoulder, but it doesn't really matter. Because of the power afforded by these levers, this lever and this lever, I can now slide my left knee up and hit a chair sit style hip escape to get onto the back. I can pursue the choke at any point in this. I don't have to throw the other hook in. But as long as I basically get this grip, I'm probably going to get on your back.
That's very cool. That was the gateway drug to the back.
There you go.
I hope you like that. It's actually part of a larger series called the Weak Side Back Attacks series, or the Weak Side Back Attack module, which we're all put together for my viewers and for the big wide world. You can grab the entire module for free by going to grapplers.com/masterapp, download that for your iPhone or your Android phone, and then open up the BJJ Formula. Within that BJJ Formula, you'll find all of the videos in Rob's Weak Side Back Attack series. Rob, what are they going to get in the Weak Side Back Attack series?
Well, you're going to get how to control the weak side, understanding and recognizing what the weak side is, what the mechanics are for controlling it. You're going to see some rear naked choke, gi choke style attacks. You're going to see some Kimura style attacks, transitioning to the armbar. And you're going to see some rear triangle attacks, which are a real strong point of the weak side back attack system.
Awesome. grapplers.com/masterapp. That's free. Download it. That's free. Open up the BJJ Formula module. That's free. And check out the entire free Weak Side Back Attacks series that's within there.
While we're on the topic of free, I have a free visiting student program at my academy, Island Top Team, which is on beautiful Vancouver Island in British Columbia, Canada. You can come and train for free for a week. You can stay for free for a week. Just give me a lot of heads up because we're booked quite a ways into the future. But if you're
Go to islandtopteam.com.
Yeah, islandtopteam.com. I'm on Instagram if you gotta hit me up on social media. And go ahead. Yeah, Island Top Team on Instagram. Send me an email and we'll make it happen.